The graceful, elegant dragon mother never imagined that her body, over 2,000 years old, would end up completely captivating a boy who had only just come of age. He even confessed his feelings to her in front of everyone. Everyone thought he was out of his mind, but the dragon mother actually accepted his feelings. As it turned out, the boy's name was Theo, a descendant of the Ragnar family, and the Ragnar family carried a unique constitution passed down through generations. Anyone with Ragnar blood was gifted with overwhelming talent in magic, physical strength, and swordsmanship from birth. But Theo was the one exception. His talent was painfully ordinary, and even his mentor, Lenton, believed he had no future. So Lenton simply conspired with the enemy and helped them breach the Rose Palace. He even caused the death of Theo's mother, Cecilia. As Theo stared at his mother's cold body, his eyes were filled with nothing but despair. In his dying moments, he couldn't help wondering, if he had inherited the family's talent too, would everything have ended differently? But when he opened his eyes again, the first thing he saw was Lenton's disgusting face. Then, a system window suddenly appeared before him. Please punch Lenton in the face. Theo had no idea what was going on, but he also wanted a chance to vent the hatred burning inside him. So he threw a punch, and what he got in return was a brutal beating from Lenton. Lenton said coldly, "I already told you. Today's lesson is over. There are less than 2 months left until the Blooming Festival. I understand why you're anxious, but an apprentice who takes his anger out on his mentor gets no mercy. Besides, as a Ragnar, you should rely on your sword, not mindless brawling." After saying that, Lenton turned and walked away. Theo was left completely confused, but when he remembered how real that pain had felt, he snapped awake. This was no dying hallucination. He had actually been reborn. He looked at the system interface again and found that the beginner mission had already been completed, and the reward was the very thing he had always dreamed of, the exclusive talent of the Ragnar bloodline. Meanwhile, Lenton went to see Cecilia, first mocking Theo's lack of talent. Then he swore with absolute confidence that he would teach the young master everything he knew and make him shine at the Blooming Festival. Cecilia was delighted to hear that and immediately paid Lenton a pouch of gold as his reward. As he left, Lenton looked at the heavy pouch of coins and couldn't help sneering. Like mother, like son. Bloodlines really don't lie. By staying here, I not only get paid handsomely, but I also get to call myself the mentor of a direct Ragnar descendant. And in exchange for feeding that person information about Theo and holding back his growth, my future is guaranteed. Who would have thought the useless son of the Ragnar family would end up becoming my golden ticket? Just then, Theo flashed past him. Lenton watched his back, with nothing but contempt in his eyes. What an ill-mannered, talentless brat. He couldn't even greet his own teacher. When Theo finally saw his mother, he immediately threw himself into her arms. Cecilia noticed something was wrong with him and thought he had simply exhausted himself during training. She was about to comfort him, only to realize that his eyes were filled with determination. Looking at his mother, Theo silently swore that he would change the future. He was still weak right now, but as long as that mysterious system window was telling the truth, he could become stronger. Strong enough to survive that damned power struggle. Then the system reminded him again, ordering him to push his body to its absolute limit. Theo wanted revenge on Lenton more than anything, but he knew that with this frail body, he couldn't do a single thing. Right now, his top priority was getting stronger as fast as possible. If the system window hadn't lied to him, then he would run every path he failed to finish in his past life. He would take every swing he had failed to make, with everything he had. This time, he would truly become strong. After several days of relentless effort, Theo finally caught the attention of the administrator, Evelyn. He's been training for days without sleeping or resting. With that kind of willpower, is he really someone with no talent at all? At that moment, the system progress had already reached 97%. But even then, Theo didn't dare slack off for a second, because just yesterday, he had let himself relax for only a brief moment, and the completion rate had started dropping at terrifying speed. So he refused to waste even a single second. Finally, through sheer persistence, Theo successfully completed the task given by the system, but he had also pushed his body too far and collapsed from exhaustion. When Theo opened his eyes again, Evelyn told him gently, "You collapsed while training alone before dawn, so I brought you here for now. This is the resting area of the 4th training ground. Even if you are a Ragnar, training that recklessly will still break your body. However, young master, the Ragnar family clearly forbids opening one's mana core before the Blooming Festival. You do know that, correct?" Theo had no idea why she suddenly brought that up, but he still nodded in response. Then Evelyn's expression turned serious. "Before you lost consciousness, Mana waves appeared around you that were extremely similar to the signs of opening a mana core. Young master, don't tell me you already opened yours. Theo's body stiffened. Are you kidding me? If that were true, how would I still be alive? But the next second, he suddenly remembered that right before passing out, he had indeed received a system reward. And that reward was the dragon heart. Just as the name suggested, it was the heart of a dragon capable of housing a mana core. A mana core could only display its full power when installed in the heart. But a human heart couldn't withstand the burden of a mana core, so humans, unlike dragons, had no choice but to place their cores in the lower abdomen. That was exactly why warriors everywhere, including the Ragnar family, had once gone mad with desire for a dragon heart. It was undoubtedly a shortcut to becoming an absolute powerhouse. But humans simply couldn't overcome the limits they were born with. And now, that very dragon heart had fallen into Theo's hands. But right now, there was an even more troublesome problem. Ever since Evelyn lost her left arm, she had retired from active duty, though she now served only as the administrator of the 4th training ground. She had once been the vice captain of the white-armored dragon knights, and her strength had even been acknowledged by the captain, the demonic dragon. On top of that, she was infamous for being an extreme stickler for principles. She never cared about status or strength, but she absolutely refused to tolerate injustice or vile behavior. In fact, her inability to compromise was the very reason she had been removed from her position as a direct line mentor. In other words, if Evelyn discovered that Theo had a mana core formed from a dragon heart inside his body, he could very well be executed on the spot. But Theo had already prepared a way to deal with this. He questioned Evelyn instead. You're saying you would punish me immediately based on nothing more than a fleeting sensation? I am also an heir of the Ragnar family. If your baseless suspicion turns out to be false, wouldn't that count as an insult against the Ragnar bloodline? Evelyn froze. Of course. That is also a matter of principle. Theo widened his eyes, then released an invisible pressure. Good. Then since you understand the consequences of insulting an heir, go ahead and try. Evelyn did not hesitate at all. She placed her hand directly on Theo's abdomen. But after several breaths, there was no reaction whatsoever. Evelyn was stunned. There's nothing there. Was it truly my mistake? Once she came back to her senses, Evelyn immediately dropped to one knee. I have insulted the Ragnar family. Please execute me. Theo laughed coldly in his heart. The dragon heart was fundamentally different from an ordinary mana core. Its presence could be freely controlled by its owner. In other words, it could hide its mana whenever he wished. Besides, the fact that a human could possess a dragon heart was something that would only be revealed several years later. Theo waved his hand. There's no need for atonement. You only did what you were supposed to do. Besides, how many people these days would dare risk their own life just to demand the truth from an heir? After walking out of the resting area, Theo silently swore to himself. With the dragon heart, combined with 10 years of hard-earned experience from his past life, he was destined to become strong enough to crush everything in this life. After obtaining the dragon heart, Theo forced himself to attend Lenton's lessons every single day. But the problem was, this man kept deliberately teaching him strange, useless sword techniques. Theo knew very well that someone had to be pulling Lenton's strings from behind the scenes, and his mission was most likely to watch Theo while pretending to be his mentor. With that thought, Theo suddenly snapped the wooden sword in his hand. Then he asked coldly, with third-rate skills like yours, how exactly did you manage to become an intermediate swordsman? Theo thought to himself that as long as he could drive Lenton out of the mentor position, Lenton would be forced to contact the mastermind behind him. And once that happened, Theo could uncover who that person really was. Not long after, inside the Camellia Palace, a swordsman reported to Axion, "My lord, 1 week from now, the useless son of the Ragnar family will have a sword duel with his mentor. Apparently, he blames his mentor for not teaching him properly. After this duel, he might end up half-crippled." Axion immediately threw his wine cup at the swordsman. And? Am I supposed to care that some useless trash might become half-crippled? Ed warned him. Of course you should care. Things usually fall apart because of one careless moment. But Axion scoffed. That only applies to people with actual talent. Uncle, you worry too much. Ed's gaze darkened. Do not forget. Even the smallest possibility is enough for a Ragnar to overturn everything. 1 week later, inside the 4th training ground, Theo felt exasperated. At first, he only wanted to embarrass Lenton a little, and use that chance to get him dismissed. He never expected the situation to blow up this much. But since things had already reached this point, he might as well settle the score with Lenton properly. 1 week earlier, Theo had only planned to fire Lenton and make him disappear from his sight. But Evelyn suddenly made a suggestion. Why not settle this the Ragnar way? Decide it through a sword duel. At this moment, Lenton was still wearing that hypocritical expression. Young master, if you apologize now, I can pretend none of this ever happened. There's no need to risk your life over pride. Theo said coldly, that is exactly what I should be saying to you. After that, he let his actions do the rest of the talking. As it turned out, 1 week earlier, after Evelyn interrupted his plan, Theo went to her and asked why she had suggested a sword duel. Evelyn told him, I was helping you. If you want to pull out the weeds, you need to remove the roots completely. It is obvious that someone is backing Lenton. Simply dismissing him will not solve the problem. After seeing him teach you those strange sword techniques, I decided to investigate him a little. And once I did, I found that every trace Lenton left behind pointed to the Camellia Palace. Theo was shocked. The Camellia Palace? So this is because of that damned succession struggle again. Still, I have to admit, I'm surprised you were able to uncover that much. But with my current strength, I still can't beat Lenton. So what exactly are you planning? Evelyn replied calmly. Young master, you are greatly underestimating your own potential. Allow me to train you personally. In 1 week, someone like Lenton will be easy for you to defeat. Strictly speaking, disregarding your original mentor and receiving my instruction instead does go against proper conduct. But a man like Lenton never deserved to be a mentor in the first place. Theo hadn't expected the matter to be resolved so smoothly. It seemed making Evelyn owe him a favor back then really had been the right choice. At that moment, Lenton grew more alarmed the longer they fought. Theo had clearly shown no talent before. Yet, from the moment the duel began, he had been able to receive every single one of Lenton's attacks. What in the world was going on? Seeing Lenton's rhythm begin to fall apart, Theo asked calmly, who is backing you? Let me guess. The Camellia Palace. Right? Lenton, do you know what it feels like to have your arm cut off? The moment those words fell, one of Lenton's arms was severed by Theo. Looking at Lenton, who had already lost the ability to fight, Theo finally confirmed that he had truly grown stronger. And from here on, he would only become stronger still. Didn't you say this to me last time? That everything had come to this because I brought it on myself. Then, if you die here today, that will also be something you brought on yourself. At that moment, no one could believe their eyes. The useless young master they all remembered had actually defeated an intermediate swordsman. Then the system notification rang out. Skill observation activated. Just as Theo was about to check his new talent, he suddenly felt an inexplicable pressure sweeping over him. He turned around and saw that the newcomer was none other than Julius, the captain of the white-armored dragon knights, known as the demonic dragon. Julius patted Theo on the shoulder and laughed. I like your style. I suppose the new generation really does surpass the old. So? Interested in joining the white-armored dragon knights? The moment everyone heard that, they were stunned. Even if Theo had performed well, wasn't this a bit too extreme? Wellington couldn't help asking the person beside him, has there ever been a precedent for someone being recruited like this? The man shook his head. Now it was Wellington's turn to be shocked. After all, without opening a mana core, it was extremely difficult to judge someone's true potential. There were plenty of people with excellent swordsmanship, but terrible mana. Even someone from the Ragnar family could not be guaranteed to succeed. So did Lord Demonic Dragon truly believe Theo was worth taking that risk? However, Theo then told Julius that he had no intention of joining the white-armored dragon knights right now. The moment he said that, everyone was completely dumbfounded. Soon, news that Theo had defeated his own mentor spread everywhere. Meanwhile, inside the Camellia Palace, Princess Emil frowned deeply. This has become troublesome. That brat actually killed Lenton. Ed replied, there is no need to worry too much. We chose Lenton precisely because his ability was lacking. Emil's eyes darkened. Do you think I care whether Lenton lives or dies? The demonic dragon personally approached him. And from what I hear, Evelyn herself trained him in swordsmanship. Now we don't even have the chance to plant a new mentor to sabotage him. If that boy is allowed to rise into the spotlight, our plan to seize the Rose Palace will be completely ruined. At that moment, Axion walked in. You're overthinking it. That useless Theo is still weak. So what if he has improved a little? Evelyn and the demonic dragon have always loved picking up trash and calling it mercy. Since mother and uncle are so wary of him, then let me have some fun with him. Meanwhile, inside the Rose Palace, Theo had just finished a full day of training. Evelyn asked him, joining the white-armored dragon knights would clearly give you a brighter future. Why did you refuse? Theo thought to himself that saying he had no regrets would be a lie. After all, that was the place he had admired throughout his previous life. But joining now would bring more harm than good. His ceiling was no longer something that should be defined this early. Compared to a special recruitment spot in the white-armored dragon knights, the exclusive resources awarded to the champion of the blooming festival were far more important. So Theo answered modestly, "Because I do not want to receive special treatment. Having you guide me until the day of the blooming festival is already more than enough." Then Theo activated his observation skill on Evelyn. In an instant, all of her information appeared before his eyes. Seeing this, Theo felt that this ability was incredibly useful. It would definitely come in handy in the future. Just then, Sybil walked over. "Excuse me, young Master Theo, I wish to follow you. To be honest, I once looked down on you as well. I also thought the title, Ragnar's Useless Son, suited you perfectly. But later, I realized that you always appeared at the training ground before dawn and trained harder than anyone else. Because of that, I personally witnessed your miraculous growth. When I was called the failure of the southern checkpoint and was about to give up on myself, you gave me hope. So please, young master, give me a chance. Allow me to cross swords with you once." Theo looked at Sybil and thought that if this had been the past, he definitely would have doubted his sincerity. But the stats on the panel told him that every word was true. He had originally assumed that once news spread that he had defeated Lenton and gained Lord Julius's favor, those who were eaten away by insecurity would come looking for him to test his strength. But Theo never expected that someone would actually want to follow him. It seemed the pride of Ragnar still remained in their hearts. Good. If he wanted to become the head of the Ragnar family, he would eventually meet people who were loyal to him. The shackles he failed to break in his previous life would be shattered completely this time. Theo said, "Theo Ragnar, apprentice swordsman of the Rose Palace preparing for the blooming festival, disciple of Evelyn. I accept your challenge." Sybil immediately straightened his posture. "Sybil Dre, apprentice swordsman of the southern checkpoint. I hope to enjoy this battle with you to the fullest." The duel between Theo and Sybil was about to begin. After a brief exchange, Sybil realized that Theo's strength was truly real, and Theo was just as shocked. If this had been his previous life, he probably would not have lasted even 3 moves against Sybil. But now, everything was different. After knocking Sybil down, Theo suddenly had a thought. Could this observation ability be used on himself as well? With that question in mind, he checked his own stats. To his surprise, it actually worked. It seemed that the dragon heart and the mana accumulated from his previous life had made his mana stat abnormally high, but the real problem was, why was his luck stat negative? Was that why he had been so unlucky in his previous life? By then, more and more people had gathered around the training ground. Evelyn knew very well that no matter how pathetic Lenton's skills were, he was still an intermediate swordsman. Yet young Master Theo had defeated him, and even earned the captain's approval. In Ragnar, where strength was everything, people would only react to this in one of 2 ways: intense hatred or fearful admiration. And the people standing here right now were clearly the latter. Then a lower-ranked swordsman named Eod stepped forward, saying that he also wished to cross swords with the young master. Theo did not refuse. As the two exchanged blows, Theo not only gained Eod's recognition, but his luck also increased by 1 point. He never expected that gaining someone's recognition would actually raise his luck stat. In that case, Theo simply accepted dozens more challenges in a row. After an unknown amount of time, he opened his status panel again, only to find that the progress bar had only increased by 1%. Was it because the people gathered here had already acknowledged his strength? Just then, a voice came from the crowd. "You look a little tired. Can you still continue?" Theo replied, "When I need to rest, I will rest. For now, I'm fine. If you insist, then allow me to spar with you this time." When Theo saw who had stepped forward, his body stiffened. The person before him was none other than Wellington, the Silver Lion of the Northern Four. The Northern Four referred to the 4 strongest swordsmen among Ragnar's current Blooming Festival generation. Wellington said, "I came here before the Blooming Festival, specifically to witness the swordsmanship of Ragnar's future lord with my own eyes. To have my wish fulfilled today is truly an honor." In response, Theo also raised his sword before his chest. He never imagined that he would one day stand face to face with a genius he had once looked up to. Now that things had reached this point, Theo also wanted to know if he could now defeat Wellington of the Northern Four. The battle lasted for nearly an hour. It only came to a stop when the sword in Theo's hand finally snapped. Everyone felt it was a shame, but they all knew that even if young Master Theo had improved at terrifying speed, defeating one of the Northern Four, the strongest of the Blooming Festival generation, was still impossible. But just then, everyone heard Wellington suddenly say, "I lost. Thank you for the lesson, young master. The sword you used was already worn down, and you were physically exhausted as well. This battle should be counted as my defeat." But Theo did not agree. On the battlefield, who cares whether your blade is rusted or your strength has run out? The moment your sword leaves your hand, you have lost. Through this battle, both of them felt a sense of mutual respect. Theo knew very well that the talent and secret techniques he had gained from the mission system had already taken him far beyond the level of his previous life. But the instant their blades clashed, he finally understood that he was still nowhere near enough. Even though he had lost this battle, he had gained a great deal. Not only had his luck increased by a full 10 points, but he had also completely changed how everyone saw him. Then Wellington spoke. Actually, I did not come here today only for a match. I also wish to invite you to attend the Wyvern Gathering. The moment the others heard that, they were stunned. It was said that only those chosen could attend the Wyvern Gathering, and this time, Wellington himself had personally invited him. That was far too impressive. Theo asked modestly, "Is someone of my status truly allowed to attend?" Wellington quickly explained, "Young master, what are you saying? Your qualifications are more than enough. In truth, it is not some grand event. It is simply a gathering of people around the same age before the blooming festival, meant to help everyone become better acquainted." Theo thought to himself that although he didn't know what Wellington was really planning, the Wyvern Gathering was an organization centered around Axion. It would be filled with people who looked down on him, which made it the perfect place to advance his missions. He could also use the chance to observe the Camellia Palace and Axion, so he had no reason to refuse. So Theo nodded and said, "In that case, I will attend." A short while later, inside the Rose Palace, Cecilia suddenly came to find her son. She looked at Theo with excitement. "I heard you received an invitation to the Wyvern Gathering. That is a banquet where Axion, the son of that cunning Emil, gathers with geniuses like Wellington. Even the Council of Elders will be watching from the shadows. Because of that, even the slightest mistake in clothing or etiquette could be used against you. Although your manners are already flawless, leave your attire and presentation to me. Do not forget, your mother used to be an actress. I'm so happy that I can finally help you." Looking at his mother as she busied herself for his sake, Theo knew very well that she had always blamed herself for making him bear the mark of an illegitimate son. But none of that was her fault. In the cold world of the Ragnar family, she had suffered far too many grievances because of her disappointing son. And even then, she had always chosen to believe in him. Theo reached out and embraced her. "From now on, you don't need to worry about anything. This time, I will tear the Wyvern Gathering apart." Half a month later, Theo arrived at the Camellia Palace. Looking at the towering castle before him, he couldn't help murmuring inwardly, so this was the place that ordered Lenton to block his growth, and eventually devoured him, his mother, and the entire Rose Palace. The two had barely entered the castle when something nearly struck them. Seeing Wellington's anger, Theo thought that if this had been his previous life, he definitely would not have been able to dodge it. He had originally assumed Wellington was part of the conspiracy as well, but now it seemed that was not the case. Using flour as a welcome ceremony, the only person who would do something like this had to be Axion himself. Theo looked up with a smile. "With such a warm welcome, I'm starting to look forward to today's banquet even more." Axion was slightly taken aback. "It seems you've grown quite a bit more amusing after just a few days." Inside the banquet hall, the others were also whispering about Theo. What exactly is Axion thinking? Even if they're direct line brothers, there's no need to invite this kind of trash to the Wyvern Gathering, is there? Seeing their reactions, Wellington immediately apologized to Theo. "Young master, they're not usually like this." Theo looked completely unconcerned on the surface, but in his heart, he thought coldly, "Go ahead, judge me all you want. The more arrogant you are now, the more satisfying it will be when I crush you." Then Axion walked over. First, he casually apologized for what had happened earlier. Then he threw an arm around Theo and asked with a wicked grin, "You'll accept my apology, right?" Theo's answer was strangely meaningful. "All I remember is that you greeted me earlier." Axion clearly hadn't expected that response and froze on the spot. Then he burst into laughter and patted Theo on the back. "How did I never notice you were this interesting before? You're really growing on me." Seeing this, the others began whispering again. "Look at that. That piece of trash really doesn't dare lose his temper. An illegitimate son is still an illegitimate son. What right does he have to argue with a noble bloodline like Troy? Do you think Wellington keeps protecting that trash because he's an illegitimate son too?" Watching Wellington slowly lower his head, Theo raised his eyes slightly. He had planned to endure it a little longer, but it seemed that was no longer possible. Then he asked Axion, "I'd like to greet my new friends as well. You don't mind, do you?" Without waiting for Axion to react, Theo walked straight toward the two loudmouths. He did not hesitate at all, and knocked one of them to the ground. Then, Under everyone's shocked gazes, Theo grabbed the man's arm and stomped down hard. A clear crack of breaking bone rang out. Theo calmly tidied the loose strands of hair over his forehead. "So, does anyone else want to say hello?" At that moment, several swordsmen jumped forward. They pointed their blades at Theo. "You dared injure our young master. This crime must be paid for with your life." Theo let out a quiet laugh. "He is nothing more than one minor young master of the Hanabi family. And you, lowly grunts, dare demand my life?" Do you understand the weight of those words? In an instant, all of them were frozen by the pressure radiating from Theo. After all, he was still a direct descendant of Ragnar with inheritance rights. More than that, Ragnar was the Emperor of the North, a sovereign house standing above the 6 snow families. For anyone to casually demand the life of a descendant of dragon blood was, by all common law, a crime grave enough to have their entire family executed. Just as the swordsman froze in hesitation, Theo suddenly gave an order: "Kill them." With that one sentence, their lives were taken. By the time everyone came back to their senses, they realized another person had appeared in the hall at some point. Evelyn asked, "How did you know I had followed you?" Theo shrugged. "Just the basics." As it turned out, before Theo left, Julius had once approached Evelyn. "Didn't you say you would never take another apprentice? Is it Theo? Does that kid actually have what it takes?" Evelyn told him he is even more astonishing than I expected. In terms of attitude and talent alone, Theo is the best apprentice I have ever taught. If we speak only of potential, he is even far above Axion. That is why I am somewhat worried about this wyvern gathering. Julius chuckled. A bunch of hot-blooded wolf cubs gathering in one place. Of course they'll use their fangs to decide who stands on top. Why not just follow him yourself? And if you can happen to drag that kid into the white-armored dragon knights along the way, even better. As Evelyn looked at Theo now, she felt something she couldn't quite put into words. If he had already known she was following him, then that meant he had created this chaos on purpose. Perhaps from the moment he agreed to attend the banquet, the wyvern gathering had already fallen into his hands. But when exactly had he noticed her? Then, Theo reminded Evelyn, "Most of the people here have already committed the crime of insulting an heir. According to family law, how should they be punished?" Evelyn replied, "According to family law, they may be executed on the spot." Theo laughed softly. "Forget it. In the end, they are only children who have yet to experience the blooming festival. Then cut off one arm from each of them. Let it serve as a keepsake." Amid the screams and pleas for help, the progress bar on Theo's panel began rising rapidly. At that moment, one young master crawled to Axion, hoping he would step in and save him. But Axion's eyes were ice cold. "Why should I save you? He's just saying hello." When the last offender fell, Axion finally realized that Theo had deliberately targeted those who preached bloodline superiority, making it impossible for someone with equal inheritance rights like him to interfere. Worse still, at some point, both Wellington and Evelyn had already taken their places beside Theo. Only then did he realize that the useless son of the Rose Palace had truly changed. Then Evelyn stepped forward and reported, "Young master, the 14 people you mentioned have all had their right arms severed." Theo was very satisfied. Before leaving, Theo did not forget to remind Axion, "I had a wonderful time at the wyvern gathering. I really must thank you for your hospitality." As Theo walked out of the Camellia Palace, he completed every one of his beginner missions. From that day on, no one dared call him Ragnar's useless son again. When the news reached the palace, Emil could hardly believe her ears. "What did you say? The wyvern gathering was actually ruined by that useless Theo?" Not long after, a slap landed hard across Axion's face. Emil said furiously, "I warned you long ago not to think of this so simply." In the end, not only did that useless thing gain the advantage, even your own subordinates were cleaned up by him. If that lowborn wretch is allowed to show his true strength, our plan to seize the Rose Palace will collapse completely. How many times must I say this? Confine yourself to your quarters and think about what you've done. After Axion left, Emil couldn't help complaining. "I truly don't know who he takes after being so reckless." Ed replied, "Naturally he takes after your highness when you were young. But there is no need to be angry. This unexpected turn may not necessarily be a bad thing. As part of the family head's inner courts, the Rose Palace was never easy to seize. Although the rabble gathered there is not valued by the family head, they still act under his banner. And what we need, right now, is exactly a proper excuse. The chaos at the wyvern gathering has given us a perfectly legitimate reason. Since Theo is expanding the Rose Palace's influence, why don't we use this incident to suppress him through legal means?" At that moment, Emil felt as if everything had suddenly become clear. The reason they had feared Theo growing stronger was simply because they were worried the family head might begin valuing the Rose Palace. upsetting the balance of power. But if Theo truly became too dazzling because of his growth, then the Camellia Palace could use legitimate means to make him disappear completely. When that happened, the Rose Palace would have no choice but to bow before the Troy faction. In other words, they could devour the entire Rose Palace without shedding a single drop of blood. Meanwhile, Wellington looked deeply ashamed. You endured their insults toward you, yet when they insulted me, you stood up for me. And at that moment, I did nothing. Wellington thought to himself that Theo had used strategy to overcome the gap in raw power, turning an absolute disadvantage into a flawless victory. Even when facing the Camellia Palace, which everyone feared, he had not hesitated for a single second. And he had done it to protect Wellington. Before this, Wellington's family had instructed him to deliberately build a good relationship with Axion, who supposedly had a limitless future. But now, Wellington saw things differently. Then he looked at Theo with complete sincerity. Young Master Theo, I wish to follow you. The moment those words were spoken, cheers erupted around them. As expected, only the strong truly recognized the strong. Theo did not refuse. In that case, there's something I would like your help with. As he spoke, he took out a note. Before long, the power struggle between Axion and me will only grow more intense. When that time comes, I ask that you lend me your strength. Theo knew very well that Wellington would one day become the head of the Nalcio family, a house powerful enough to stand against the Ragnar family itself. So he had to use this chance to turn Wellington fully into one of his own people. Although Wellington did not know exactly what Theo intended, since he had already decided to follow young Master Theo, he would give it everything he had. Just then, several law swordsmen entered. The leader took out an arrest warrant. Theo Ragnar, you are under emergency arrest on suspicion of intimidation, coercion, assault, and inciting internal unrest. Theo examined it carefully and noticed that the ink on the warrant had not even fully dried. It seems they truly couldn't wait, but that suited him perfectly. Before being taken away, Theo signaled to Wellington not to forget what was written on the note. On the way, he kept thinking, since he had ruined the Wyvern gathering, they probably wouldn't stop at simply locking him up. This matter would almost certainly escalate into a formal trial. Handing a Ragnar heir over to a legal tribunal was nothing more than an attempt to question his qualifications as an heir. They wanted to use this chance to pull him out by the roots. But that was exactly what Theo wanted. The ones responsible for this trial were 4 of the 9 dragons. The demonic dragon, Julius, the soaring dragon, Ed, the sword dragon, Osha, and the origin dragon, Wolfgang. With such a terrifying lineup, if this had been the Theo from his previous life, he probably would have been suffocated by the pressure before the trial even began. Then Wolfgang was the first to lash out. Theo Ragnar, you should know very well why you have been summoned here. The crimes you committed are unforgivable. Many families are now protesting because of your reckless behavior, and some are even threatening to leave the main house. Do you think someone like you can bear those consequences? Today, I will hold you accountable. I will not allow Ragnar's honor to be dragged through the mud. Facing the accusations, Theo merely gave a token nod. You are absolutely right. I was far too careless. Back then, I should not have merely cut off their arms. I should have cut off their heads. As vassals, they received land and honor from their sovereign. In return, they were supposed to uphold the knightly code and offer their loyalty and their lives. Yet they dared to threaten their sovereign with such arrogance. I should have taken their heads immediately and punished them on the spot to restore the dignity of the knightly code. Instead, I allowed the glory of Ragnar to be trampled on by them. As Julius listened to Theo's answer, satisfaction appeared in his eyes. This kid really was clever. It seemed everything would go exactly as he expected. A proper punishment, then a clean resolution. Osha explained to Theo, in theory, what you said is not wrong. But although Ragnar is powerful, it is not massive. If we refuse to listen to the voices of our vassals and knights, we will eventually collapse. You cannot rule this world through tyranny alone. So I hope you will understand the punishment that is about to be issued. Wolfgang snorted coldly. This time you will be confined for 3 months. You should consider yourself lucky. Theo frowned slightly. But the Blooming Festival is only 2 months away. Osha explained, that is precisely why you are being granted special permission to attend next year's Blooming Festival instead. The 15 youths you injured have also decided to attend next year. Ed was extremely satisfied when he heard that. After all, having the Blooming Festival delayed was a deep humiliation for Ragnar. And with Theo, the representative of the Rose Palace, carrying such a stain, the Camellia Palace would have a legitimate reason to devour the Rose Palace whole. Theo did not hesitate at all. He immediately requested an appeal. The 4 dragons were all greatly shocked. Julius kindly reminded him, Do you understand what an appeal means? Theo answered calmly, in Ragnar, where the strong rule, an appeal is war. After all, only the victor has the right to define the truth. Wolfgang was speechless for a moment. This could have ended with 3 months of confinement, yet you insist on escalating things. You are far too arrogant. Do you really think you can stand against the power of 15 great families by yourself? Theo replied, that is a responsibility I should bear. Besides, with such a huge difference in strengths between both sides, precedent dictates that the appeal should be settled through a proxy battle, does it not? Julius mused to himself that when the difference in strength between two sides was too great for a formal war, each faction would send a representative to fight a one-on-one sword duel and determine the outcome. That was a proxy battle. The defendant's representative would inevitably be Theo, while the plaintiff's representative would most likely be Axion. If that happened, Theo would lose without question. So why would he still make this choice? Did he think Evelyn, or perhaps Julius himself, would step forward and fight in his place? Ed narrowed his eyes. What a childish little scheme. Anyone can see through it. For this battle, you will have to fight personally, and I will have Axion take the field. I will make you pay with your life, so you can finally understand your own limits. Just then, a commanding voice rang out. I thought you were an obedient child. I never expected you to dare play such a sinister trick. After not seeing you for so many days, you truly have changed, my son. Seeing Kyle arrive in person, everyone immediately dropped to their knees and saluted. Greetings, Lord Patriarch. Kyle looked at Theo. It seems your current situation is quite complicated. Are you planning to appeal through a proxy battle? After receiving an affirmative answer, Kyle asked again, then who do you intend to have fight on your behalf? Theo naturally knew that his father was testing him, so Theo looked at Kyle and said, no one will fight in my place. For this appeal, I will take the field myself. Kyle frowned slightly. If that is the case, then you are guaranteed to lose. Theo replied, how would I know the result before even trying? Even if I am broken by force, I will never bow. Kyle suddenly burst into laughter. Did all of you hear what my son just said? He would rather break than bow. Is there any statement more fitting for a Ragnar than that? That attitude of yours pleases me. Theo did not say anything more. After all, he had already sent Evelyn and Wellington to collect evidence of the Camellia Palace's rebellion. As long as he held that card in his hand, victory would naturally be within reach. Then, Kyle said to him, I can give you one chance. As the master of Ragnar, I will personally test you with one strike. If you can withstand that strike, I will pardon every crime placed upon you. The moment Ed heard that, he hurriedly stepped forward to stop him. Lord Patriarch, you absolutely must not. The vassals and knights may accuse you of favoritism between father and son. It would be better to follow the rules and proceed with the proxy battle. But Kyle did not care at all. If any retainer dares say such a thing, simply dispose of them. So, my son, will you try? Although the Patriarch's proposal had completely exceeded Theo's expectations, to him, this was exactly what he wanted. So Theo said, for me, this is far too heavy. A single strike from the family head and a proxy battle are not on the same level at all. Kyle looked slightly surprised. So you are saying you cannot take it? Theo replied. No, I simply think this is not fair. Since the stakes are higher, shouldn't my reward be greater as well? Then Theo looked toward Ed, the soaring dragon, standing behind him. I think the Camellia Palace would make a fine choice. Wolfgang was speechless. He actually dares to bargain with the family head. What an arrogant, ignorant fool. But Kyle unexpectedly agreed without hesitation. If you covet the position of heir, then this is exactly the kind of nerve you should have. The scene then shifted to the training arena. At that moment, Ed was grinding his teeth in fury. Damn brat. This trap was supposed to suppress him, yet it has turned into a stage built for him instead. Still, even if that boy has grown a little stronger, there is no way he can withstand a single strike from a family head. Theo merely smiled with contempt, because he had already guessed what Ed was thinking. Unfortunately for Ed, Theo had obtained something during the beginner missions. Kyle seemed to have noticed the change in Theo as well, but he had no intention of digging deeper. Instead, he approached Theo and asked, are you warmed up? I usually use a greatsword, but for a brat like you, who cannot even use mana, this rusty iron sword will be enough. The next second, a powerful aura erupted from Kyle's body. His eyes radiated an overwhelming, unmatched dominance. Because Theo had taken an experience potion in advance, his strength stat had already tripled. With his current strength, he might actually be able to block his father's strike. As Kyle made his move, everyone held their breath. The strike came crashing straight toward Theo. Its power was so terrifying that the ground shattered inch by inch. As thick smoke rolled through the arena, Kyle's satisfied voice rang out. "After all these years, I finally found a worthy son." Then, the system notification appeared. "Congratulations, you have completed the mission. Inventory access has been unlocked. Additional reward, 1 blue key." When Theo opened his eyes again, Cecilia immediately grabbed his hand. Her eyes filled with worry. "I heard you took a strike from the family head. As your mother, I was scared half to death. Are you hurt? If anything is fractured or dislocated, we need to call a doctor right away." Then Julius told Theo, "By order of the family head, the former master of the Camellia Palace has been expelled from this place. From now on, this belongs to you." Although the plan had completely deviated from its original direction, taking over the Camellia Palace without even using his trump card was an even more perfect result. Theo took out the key and opened the system reward. To his surprise, there was actually a dungeon hidden inside. According to the system prompt, all experience gained inside the dungeon would be doubled. Theo chuckled. "In that case, there's no way I'm missing this." As he continued deeper into the dungeon, a silver wolf appeared ahead. This creature possessed astonishing strength, and its reaction speed was ridiculously fast, almost on the level of a magical beast. Ordinary attacks probably wouldn't hurt it at all. After a brief exchange, Theo suddenly remembered his father's strike. If only he could use that move now. He copied his father's movements and tried to unleash the same strike. Unfortunately, he didn't even touch a single hair on the wolf. As expected, a technique like that wasn't something he could master just by imitating it. After countless attempts, combined with the fundamentals he had learned from Evelyn, the next thrust Theo unleashed actually took out one of the magic wolf's eyes. Theo hadn't expected that he would truly succeed. The scene shifted to 2 months later, inside the 4th training ground. Ever since people heard that young Master Theo had taken a strike from the family head, more and more challengers had been coming to spar with him. Then, a man named Henry provoked them. "So when exactly is that amazing young master of yours going to show up? Wasn't he supposed to never miss a single day? It's been 2 months, and we haven't even seen his shadow. Did he get scared and run away? Sure, maybe it's true that he won the trial, but no one actually saw it. For all we know, the rumors were exaggerated." But before he could even finish speaking, Sybil punched him straight to the ground. Henry's attendant was about to say something, but the words got stuck in his throat because he realized that the aura of this group had completely changed at some point. "You dare insult young Master Theo? We've been sick of you people for a long time. Everyone, draw your swords. Let's show them what we're made of." Just as both sides were about to clash, a surge of icy power suddenly descended. The newcomer was Ray, one of the Northern Four, and with him came Rank, the man known as the Black Bear. The scene returned to the dungeon, where Theo had already defeated 170 magic wolves. At first, he had struggled badly, but after leveling up several times, things had become much easier. Now, there was only 1 wolf left to clear, and in situations like this, that usually meant the boss was about to appear. Theo looked at the final sword in his hand and fell into thought. He remembered that this was the ceremonial sword his mother had given him as a birthday gift. In his previous life, Theo's relationship with his mother had been terrible, so he had simply left this sword to gather dust in his room. Only now did he realize that it was actually a fine sword forged from snow-white monster ore. Not long after, Theo reached the 5th floor, and what appeared before him was a lesser wyvern. Ragnar was known as the descendant of dragons, yet the final boss of this strange mission was also a dragon species. Could that really be nothing more than coincidence? But right now, Theo had no time to think about that. Completing the mission came first. He had already practiced the move Flash many times against the giant wolves. It was still nowhere near his father's Dragon Flash. But as long as he pushed the power of the dragon heart to its limit, he should be able to land 1 effective strike. At that moment, Theo stabbed the wyvern in the eye, and its agonized roar echoed through the entire cave. Then the wyvern raised its head and roared, releasing a wave of pressure to intimidate him. That pressure immediately slowed Theo's movements. With no other choice, Theo had to take the attack head-on. He knew very well that the longer this dragged on, the more dangerous it would become. The instant the wyvern charged at him again, Theo gathered all his strength and thrust straight toward its chest, because he firmly believed that a dragon's weak point could only be its reverse scale. Meanwhile, back at the training ground, 2 elites were already arguing fiercely over who would get to fight Theo first. They even started fighting each other, intending to decide the order by force. Seeing this, Wellington immediately stepped in and stopped them. "If you want to fight, go somewhere else. This is young Master Theo's territory. You are not allowed to cause trouble here. When Hulk saw that Wellington was the one who stopped them, he became even more excited. Then why don't you cite me first? Just then, a terrifying pressure swept across the entire field. The one who had arrived was Theo, who had been in seclusion for 2 months. As it turned out, after defeating the Wyvern, he had successfully obtained Draconic Presence. And when Theo exited the dungeon, the reward for clearing the Camellia Palace appeared as well. The Nest Compass, an item that could guide its holder toward the location of a nest. Theo felt puzzled. Could this be connected to the next mission? Before he could think further, a maid hurried over. She reported, "Young Master Theo, there's a massive brawl breaking out at the 4th training ground." The scene shifted. By now, quite a few of the weaker individuals had already passed out. Hulks chuckled. "Let me see just how strong you really are." Facing his sudden attack, Theo did not dodge at all. Instead, he blocked the strike with ease. Hulks refused to accept it and swung his sword at him again. Although Hulk's overall ability was considered mediocre, and he had once been rated the weakest among the Northern Four, when it came to pure strength, as the key talent raised by the Rank family, he had never lost to anyone. And now, Theo was not only able to block Hulk's sword, he could even launch a counterattack. The change was so massive that even Theo himself was surprised. The next second, blood burst out of Hulk's body as everyone watched Hulk's collapse to the ground. The entire training ground erupted in cheers. Right after that, a crack quickly appeared on Theo's sword. Then it snapped cleanly into 2 pieces. Watching this unfold, Ray was pulled into a memory of the past. It was back when she first met Theo. "Who are you? Why are you wandering around outside wearing so little? Why don't you come with me for now? Once the snow stops, I'll take you home." Even though a long time had passed since then, Ray would never forget it. That was the first warmth she had ever received since the day she was born. As Ray turned and walked away, Wellington looked stunned. Did Ray just smile? She can actually smile? After returning to the Camellia Palace, Theo's mother held a birthday banquet for him, just like in his previous life. "Young master, please try this roasted abalone. It is an extremely rare delicacy from the Idrian Sea." Looking at his mother, who was always caring for him, Theo couldn't stop the image of her tragic death in his previous life from flashing through his mind. The moment he thought of that, he immediately placed the abalone into his mouth and tasted it carefully. "Mother, the food you made is truly delicious." When Cecilia saw that the birthday gift she had given Theo had been broken, she immediately started complaining. That useless old fool. Back then, she swore up and down that this was made from snow white monster ore and ebony wood, and that it could never be damaged. Theo was surprised. Ebony wood from the southern Gaia jungle? Ebony wood was a strange plant that fed specifically on iron. It retained the flexibility of wood while possessing strength greater than steel, making it an extremely precious forging material. Where exactly had his mother gotten this sword? Cecilia huffed indignantly. "This will not do. I need to go find her." People have finally started to recognize your potential, young master. At a time like this, details matter even more. We cannot delay this any longer. No better time than now. We are going to see her immediately. Soon, they arrived at the Basque workshop, one of the top 3 weapons workshops in Winterer. Its scale was so massive that it could practically be called a factory, and that was naturally one reason for its fame. But the most special thing about the workshop was still its owner. She was one of only 3 blacksmiths in Ragnar to have earned the title of Master Artisan. People called her the elf born from capitalism. She was the demon blacksmith, Gilson. But when Theo heard his mother call Gilson Mom, he froze on the spot. So his mother, who had once seemed completely alone in the world, actually had family? And she was the daughter of Gilson, a high elf? Then Cecilia threw the broken sword straight to Gilson. "Take a good look at the defective piece you forged yourself. It only took a few uses for it to end up like this." Gilson drew the broken sword and was instantly shocked. She asked urgently, "Who used this sword?" Hearing that, Theo greeted her politely. "I have long heard of the master of Basque workshop. It is an honor to meet you today." But Gilson did not waste words. "So, was this really broken by you?" With that confirmed, she led the 2 of them deeper into the workshop. On the way, Theo couldn't help asking Cecilia, "Is she truly your mother?" Cecilia replied, "It is my fault for rarely speaking of the past, so you never knew. Although it was only a short bond of less than half a year, she was indeed the foster mother who once took me in. Mother has always loved beautiful things. That was why she adopted me as her daughter. Apparently she took quite a liking to me back then. Theo was puzzled. Then why did you suddenly leave later? Gilson cut in first. Back then, she insisted on leaving on her own, saying she was going to become the wife of the Ragnar family head. She knew it was a death trap and still jumped in herself. Utterly foolish. The fact that she's still alive is already a miracle. After leaving, she suddenly showed up again last year, pestering me to forge a sword for her son. Her audacity is truly something else. Theo looked at Cecilia as she argued for his sake, and thought to himself that he had never known his mother had this side to her. Even until the end of his previous life, he had known nothing about his mother's past. Thinking about it now, he had truly been an unfilial son. But then again, it seemed the demon blacksmith cared deeply about his mother. So why had she never helped in his previous life? Just then, Gilson suddenly stopped. My room is right ahead. Cecilia, wait outside for a moment. After saying that, she directly pulled Theo into the room. Once Gilson and Theo entered, she got straight to the point. Did you obtain a relic of the ancient dragon? Theo was somewhat surprised. Are you referring to the ancestor of the main family's guardian dragon? I have indeed heard the legend that he was hidden in winter. Hearing this, Gilson excitedly drew the broken sword. Still trying to play dumb? If you didn't have the relic, how could my sword have ended up like this? This was a sword I poured my heart and soul into forging. Forget it. It'll be faster if I show you directly. As she spoke, she took out a sword case sealed with iron chains and asked Theo, "Can you see it?" Theo was instantly shocked. Isn't that the blue glow from the system mission? Gilson noticed his reaction. Inside this is something I once wanted to obtain, but I can't see anything, and I can't feel anything from it either. Legend says that in the distant age of myth, the ancient dragon pulled out one of his own fangs and forged it into a sword. That sword is the cursed blade, Moonlight Sword. If you can undo the seal on this box and successfully take the sword, I'll let you keep it. But one wrong move could cost you your life. So, what do you say? Want to try? Theo chuckled. Since it has already been delivered right in front of me, how could I not take it? As he spoke, he took out the blue key. With a light turn of his fingers, a powerful surge of energy burst out from the sword case in the next instant. Right after that, scenes from Theo's previous life appeared before his eyes. Back then, he had craved power. Power strong enough to flatten the Temelia Palace. But, in the next moment, Theo snapped awake. So, it dares to use the despair in the heart of someone craving power to devour their mind instead. A cursed sword truly lives up to its name. But unfortunately for you, the despair you showed me is something I overcame long ago. I have so many mission rewards in my hands, so how could I be seduced by power of this level? Meanwhile, Cecilia kept calling out to Theo. Young master, please wake up. Mother, what exactly is going on? I asked you to forge him a sword, not turn him into this. Gilson was just as shaken. It looked like the demonic energy had already connected to his blood vessels. Even she had never heard of such a phenomenon before. She had assumed that with the relic protecting him, nothing would go wrong. But Cecilia was already frantic. If anything happens to the young master, I will never forgive you. Just then, countless streams of black energy began gathering toward Theo. Several full minutes passed before the black energy gradually faded away. The moment Theo opened his eyes, Cecilia immediately threw herself toward him. Seeing how upset she was, Theo quickly comforted her. Please don't worry, I'm completely fine. Seeing this, Gilson also let out a long breath of relief. Thank goodness he was all right. Otherwise, Cecilia would definitely have cut ties with her completely. Theo looked at the moon-white sword in his hand and thought to himself that it was fortunate the griffin, freshly freed from its seal, had not recovered its full strength yet. That was why he had been able to obtain the sword so smoothly. Now, his mana had already climbed to the level of an upper-rank swordsman. Unfortunately, this enormous power still could not be used freely for now. It seemed that before the blooming festival arrived, he would have to keep biding his time. Just then, the moon-white sword began trembling in his hand. Theo was puzzled. Is it resisting me? Gilson told him. No, this is a little different. After all, it was trapped for over 100 years. Now that it has finally seen the light of day again, it must want to vent some of the resentment it has built up. As she spoke, she pointed at the wall on the left and told him to swing freely. Theo was a little worried. Are you sure this is fine? Gilson waved it off. It's fine. Even if that is the moon-white sword, you're still just a kid who hasn't even gone through the blooming festival yet. You won't cause any real damage here. However, before Gilson could even finish speaking, she sensed that something was wrong. She was just about to stop him, but Theo had already swung the sword. A white arc of energy flashed through the room, and smoke instantly erupted across the area. Gilson immediately broke down. No, no, no. That was all my money. Theo was just as surprised. The moon-white sword had actually absorbed all of his mana. Before he could figure out why, Gilson reached straight toward his lower abdomen. At that moment, she was deeply shocked. He has never trained in magic, yet he can achieve this much with nothing but the sharpness of his sword. This boy is an absolute genius. And a genius like this is actually my grandson. She patted Theo on the shoulder, as if she had just found a new road to riches. From now on, I'll sponsor you. You just focus on displaying your talent and become a walking advertisement for Bass Workshop. After saying goodbye to his grandmother, Theo and Cecilia hurried back to the Camellia Palace. During this period, whenever Theo had free time, he would spar with Evelyn. At first, they had been evenly matched, but now he had grown strong enough to suppress her instead. Evelyn was extremely confident. If you can display your true strength, young master, then the top seat at the Blooming Festival is absolutely within reach. I will pray for your success. Theo answered modestly, this is all thanks to you, Evelyn. When I take first place, I will make sure to mention your name in my speech. Meanwhile, at the Central Square, the Blooming Festival was Ragnar's most important annual ceremony. Everyone wanted to achieve outstanding results there, because for a Ragnar swordsman, this was the glorious moment when they first earned recognition. It was also a stage witnessed by all of Ragnar, including the family head. Of course, that included the 9 dragons as well, and even Hilda, the family head from 2 generations ago. But honestly, no matter how you looked at her, she did not look over 150 years old at all. Then the examiner, Barna, announced, the Blooming Festival officially begins now. For the first round, each participant will choose one of the iron swords placed below the stage and leave a slash mark on the iron wall above. As a reminder, this iron wall has been mixed with snow white monster ore. In other words, those ordinary iron swords below the platform cannot leave even the slightest mark on it. But if you infuse mana into your attack, the result will be different. Next, we will distribute Soma to everyone. By taking just 1 pill, you will gain more than 10 years worth of mana, and it will help you awaken your mana core. Each participant must use that power to leave a sword mark on the snow white monster or wall. The depth of the mark will be the key to this round's evaluation. Now, those whose names I call, step forward to receive your Soma and ascend the trial platform. First participant, Theo Ragnar. At the same time, Hilda asked the family head, is that the child you mentioned? Since he is someone you are paying special attention to, let me take a good look at just how much ability this descendant truly has. Just moments ago, under Barna's urging, Theo had swallowed the Soma rewarded by the family on the spot. In his previous life, after taking Soma, he had failed to control the mana and severely damaged his mana core. But in this life, he would never repeat that mistake. Watching the raging mana surge violently through Theo, Barna was instantly stunned. Damn it, this idiot hasn't controlled it at all. When swallowing Soma, the user had to guide the mana slowly and carefully, allowing it to gather steadily inside the mana core. The more gifted someone was, especially someone like a Ragnar, the more massive the mana inside them would become. One slight mistake could cripple them for life. Was this brat about to cripple himself too? However, after only a few breaths, under Barna's shocked gaze, Theo completely brought that mana under control. Even Theo had not expected it. Compared to his previous life, succeeding this time had been almost effortless. Then, he swung his sword, preparing to release all the mana he had been hiding these past days. Combined with the technique he had grasped from his father's strike, this slash was so powerful that it carved an indescribably massive trench into the sword monument. After Examiner Barna announced that Theo had passed, many people were shocked by the terrifying strength he had displayed. Unbelievable. Did this guy really release his mana for the first time today? Theo opened his status panel and found that the curse of misfortune had been completely lifted, and because his performance was far too outstanding, he had also attracted the attention of many people. Even Hilda was showing strong interest in him. It was a little unexpected that the Black Dragon and the Sword Dragon had noticed him, but at least he had successfully caught Hilda's eye. After all, she possessed the heart of Garuda. If Theo could obtain it, his strength would definitely rise to another level. In the tests that followed, the ones who drew the most attention were naturally the Northern Four. Although each of them produced monster-like results, not a single one had reached Theo's level so far. At that moment, many people began whispering, at this rate, it'll come down to a duel between the Flash Tiger and the Dark Leopard. Axion ignored the gossip completely. After swallowing the Soma, he did not hesitate at all, and swung his sword straight toward the monument. Examiner Barna was just about to stop him, but it was already too late. That sword energy surged like a blood-red dragon and slammed violently into the monument. Barna was deeply shocked. This year's Blooming Festival is truly full of surprises. The crowd was stunned as well, because the sword mark Axion left behind was almost identical to Theo's. At this point, the winner could only be decided through precise scoring. After some time, Barna announced, "The first round of the Blooming Festival ends here. This year has produced many outstanding talents, which is truly gratifying. Those who passed the assessment, please prepare for the second round of the Blooming Festival in 3 days. Now, I will announce the rankings you have all been waiting for. The first placeholder of the first round is Theo Radnar of the Rose Palace. Whether in technique, mana, control, or speed, every aspect of his performance was flawless, nearly perfect. Therefore, he receives a full score of 10. I will add one more thing. The depth of Theo's sword mark is on par with the record once set by young Master Torkel. The crowd's jaws nearly dropped when they heard that. After all, Torkel was currently the person most likely to inherit the position of family head. Then Barna continued. Knight Axion also received a full score of 10. However, compared to Theo, his sword mark was slightly shorter in length. Therefore, he is ranked second. Third place, Wellington. Fourth place, Ray. Fifth place, Hulks. A total of 87 participants passed this test. The second round of the Blooming Festival will be held in the Winter Mountains 3 days from now. Those whose names were called, please make full preparations. Later that night, everyone was celebrating Theo's first place result. Wellington also came to congratulate him. Congratulations, young Master Theo. Seeing your hard work bear fruit makes me genuinely happy. At the same time, I cannot help feeling ashamed that I have fallen so far behind. Theo comforted him. This time, I was just lucky. Besides, between friends, why bother caring so much about empty rankings? Let's both give it everything we have in the second round of the Blooming Festival. After the celebration ended, Theo came alone to the Winter Mountains. Taking first place in the Blooming Festival was an achievement he would not have even dared to dream of in his previous life. Although he had not defeated Axion in actual combat, it still proved just how much he had grown during this time. But this was only the beginning. Punishing a small fry like Lenton was nowhere near enough. His real enemies were Axion and the Soaring Dragon. He would use every method available to him, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Then Theo took out the Nest Compass. Ever since he set foot here, it had been pointing toward the Winter Mountains. What exactly was hidden there? It seemed he could only confirm it himself during the second round of the Blooming Festival. Just then, Theo suddenly sensed someone slowly approaching him. In an instant, he pressed the moon-white sword against the person's throat. The man quickly explained, "Young Master Theo, after our captain saw you at the Blooming Festival, he sent me here to offer you a chance to take our recruitment test." Theo had already expected people to come and try to recruit him, but he never imagined they would merely ask him to take a test. Wasn't that a little too disrespectful? As expected, the Gale Sword Order was full of idiots. Then a female swordsman approached from the distance. "Young Master Theo, we are different from those fools. We would like to invite you directly into the Black Iron Cavalry as an official member. What do you think?" For a moment, people from various knight orders and organizations all emerged, one after another. Every single one of them wanted Theo to join their side. Seeing this, Theo felt exasperated. What a mess. He should slip away before things got even more troublesome. But just then, a familiar voice made him stop in his tracks. It may invite criticism for being greedy, but if one wishes to recruit true talent, what does a little humiliation matter? Her purpose was the same as everyone else's. She had also come here for Theo. Everyone was stunned. Is Lord Sword Dragon planning to personally guide him? After they entered a pocket dimension, Osha told Theo, "I came here today to give you a gift. The family head sword is fierce and overwhelming, like dragon breath falling from the heavens, burning everything to ash. But I am different from him. I seek to hide infinite variation within the sword. The dragon I pursue is one that gathers the ever-changing nature of all things into a single breath. ... I call this plum blossoms across the sky, first form, rain of falling petals." Theo was stunned. This was unbelievable. In a single breath, there were 120 trajectories and variations. So the rumors were true. In pure swordsmanship, even the family head was a step behind her. If he could merge what he had just seen into his own flash and unleash them together, Theo could not even imagine how much power it would create. Osha chuckled. "The fact that you could see it clearly is already enough." Then, she released a pocket dimension and told Theo, If you wish to see the later forms in the future, come find me anytime after the blooming festival ends. I hope you become a new wind blowing through this place." Looking at the Plum Blossom Princess as she left, Theo gave a wry smile. It seemed he had truly accepted an enormous gift this time. Pretending he knew nothing and slipping past it was probably no longer possible. 3 days later, the second round of the Blooming Festival officially began. This place was known as the Winter Mountains, part of Winterer, and it was also called the Demon Sea, and the Ragnar clan had guarded this place for thousands of years, preventing the magical beasts beyond the Great Barrier from leaving the cursed Demon Sea and invading human territory. The one explaining the rules was this round's supervisor, Jackie. One day, all of you will inherit this duty as well. So remember this clearly. As apprentice swordsmen, you are absolutely forbidden from stepping into the Demon Sea. This exam area is limited to the inner side of the Great Barrier. The test itself is simple. Within 15 days, you must enter the Winter Mountains and hunt magical beasts. Then, retrieve the bells hanging from their necks. The bells are divided into 7 colors: red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple. The farther the color is in that order, the higher the points. Naturally, the beasts carrying high-value bells are also much stronger. In particular, beasts carrying purple bells are basically impossible for your current level to defeat. However, if you do manage to obtain one, the score will be tremendous. There are no restrictions on methods for this exam. No matter what you do, as long as you bring the bells back before the exam ends, they will count. Theo thought to himself that this meant they could steal other people's prey, or even steal their bells directly. That kind of rule was not exactly good for Unity, but it certainly fit Ragnar's law of the strong ruling over the weak. Then Jackie continued. Totems capable of repelling magical beasts have been set up in different areas, and supplies are buried inside the safe zones. Make good use of them. Now then, the exam officially begins. All participants disperse. The moment those words fell, everyone charged toward the heart of the mountains. Sybil knew very well that in this half-month-long exam, supplies came first. He had to secure the supplies before he could help young Master Theo. Axion, on the other hand, remembered what his uncle had instructed him to do. He immediately chose the opposite direction. Ray noticed how strange his actions were. After hesitating for a while, she still decided to follow him. Then Wellington called out to Theo. Young Master, you once said that we are friends, but after thinking deeply for these 3 days, I realized that while I see you as a friend, I also see you as a rival. Because of that, a desire has taken root in me, a sincere desire to surpass you. Hearing this, Theo smiled. He understood that feeling. Before this, he had also seen Wellington as both a friend and a rival. Wellington suddenly laughed. If that is the case, then I'm relieved. I thought I was the only one who felt this way. And because of that, in the second round of the Blooming Festival, I will not hold back. After Wellington left, Theo murmured to himself. Wellington, the future head of the Nalkio family, is now aiming to surpass me. Is there anything more exciting than that? But putting that aside, finding the nest was the top priority right now. Following the direction of the compass, Theo soon arrived at the designated location. Strangely enough, the needle was pointing underground. Theo was speechless. Don't tell me I'm supposed to dig my way in. I should have brought a shovel. Using the moonwhite sword to dig dirt would be an absolute waste. Just then, Theo suddenly unleashed a flash strike forward. Stop hiding. Come out. 3 assassins slowly stepped out. We thought we were hiding our trail well enough. Didn't expect you to notice us this early. Theo truly couldn't understand it. He had no connection to these 3 men at all. So why had they come looking for trouble with him? The leader, Hyde, chuckled. Obviously, someone hired us. And it's someone a low-born bastard like you could never even imagine. Theo did not hesitate at all, and immediately said the name of the head of the Council of Elders. All 3 of them were shocked. How did you know who it was? Theo explained calmly. The way you keep bringing up bloodlines makes it far too obvious. Not even an examiner followed you here, which means you've already paid them off as well. Unfortunately for you, you know nothing about my strength. The moment he finished speaking, Theo swung his blade and unleashed Dragon's 3 claws, killing all 3 assassins on the spot. He hadn't expected them to be this weak. The rain of falling petals shown by the Plum Blossom Princess had taken Theo 3 full days of repeated analysis before he could barely manage to chain 3 flash strikes together. By drawing curves through circles and arcs, the technique could branch into countless variations and applications. Of course, unleashing 120 sword strikes in a row like the Plum Blossom Princess was still far beyond him for now. Now he had to figure out how to get underground. Just then, Theo suddenly noticed that the head he had thrown down the cliff was making a strange sound. When he looked closely, he realized there was actually a transparent hidden staircase below. Meanwhile, a law swordsman was reporting the status of the second round to the 9 dragons. At present, Axion is ranked first. He has collected 41 bells. Ray is ranked second. Julius asked, "What about Theo?" The law swordsman replied, "He currently has 0 bells, and he has no companions with him. We believe he may be lying low or preparing an ambush." Osha frowned slightly. "So the examiners have not confirmed his location yet, correct?" Then, Wolfgang said, "Doing well in the first round does not mean he will perform the same way in the second." But inwardly, he was thinking, "Looks like those assassins are working faster than expected." Ed looked at Wolfgang's smug expression and immediately guessed that this matter had to be connected to him. He never expected that crazy old man to interfere without permission. What an arrogant fool. As it turned out, after Ed was driven out of the Camellia Palace, he had taken the chance to search the Rose Palace from top to bottom, but still found no trace of the ancient dragon's relic. That was why he was convinced the clue had to be in Theo's hands. He had planned to steal the clue first, and then kill Theo afterward, only for the origin dragon to suddenly step in and disrupt his plan. Osha reminded Julius, "Ed and Wolfgang seem to be plotting something in secret. It looks like we should prepare a backup plan as well." But Julius said, "Theo is not the type to fall that easily. He must have his own reasons right now, so there is no need for us to interfere in the exam just to help him." Meanwhile, after Theo entered the hidden realm, he realized this was not a hatchling's nest at all. It was the dwelling place of the guardian dragon, Lodbrok. Seeing this, Theo quickly knelt and saluted. "Greetings, ancestor." Lodbrok was deeply puzzled. Why was this chosen one calling him ancestor? Theo explained, "Lord Guardian Dragon, you were the companion of our clan's founder, Lord Sigurd, and the mother of the second family head, Fridrev. That is why I addressed you that way." Lodbrok was clearly surprised. It seems that brat Fridrev spread quite a few ridiculous stories outside. It is true that Sigurd and I called each other companions, but that was merely a term of respect for contract partners who shared their souls. Besides, when it comes down to it, how could a dragon and a human truly unite? Theo was puzzled. Then is the claim that dragon blood flows through our clan also just some kind of empty slogan? Lodbrok explained, "No, not exactly. Through the contract, Sigurd and I did indeed share dragon blood. But that is enough small talk. It is time for me to fulfill the guardian dragon's duty toward the chosen one. I, Lodbrok, shall now grant the chosen one 3 questions according to the ancient covenant. Now, it is your turn to ask." Theo was delighted, so it wasn't a battle. Perfect. In that case, he had to gather as much information as possible. "Then my first question is this. Why did you remain here?" Lodbrok had not expected him to ask such a deep question right away. Was this child trying to uncover the truth behind everything from the start? A good question. "The reason I remain here is because beyond the demon sea at the edge of the world, there exists a monster, the Nameless Monarch. For the past 1,000 years, I have carried the mission of protecting this world, which is why I have continued to guard this place. The Winter Mountains are nothing more than a forward base built to oppose it." At that moment, Theo was basically certain that he had felt fear in Lodbrok's eyes just now. He wanted to ask whether an ancient dragon who held the position of ruling Dragon King had truly encountered something powerful enough to frighten her. But there were things he had to clarify first. "Then, allow me to ask my second question. What exactly is an ancient dragon relic?" Lodbrok looked somewhat puzzled. "You carry 3 relics, and yet know nothing about them. It seems you are very lucky." Theo was shocked. One was the Camellia Palace dungeon, and another was the Moonwhite Sword. "Then what was the last one?" Lodbrok told him, "What you call ancient dragon relics are fragments left behind by the ancient dragon Fafnir, who divided his own soul into 31 pieces to protect humanity from the Nameless Monarch. Ancient dragon relics have no fixed form. They may be an object, an experience, or even a bizarre phenomenon." So that was it. Only then did Theo realize that the final relic he carried was the 10 years of time that had flowed backward. In other words, it was Theo himself. If that was a miracle triggered by the power of the ancient dragon Fafnir, then everything made sense. But one thing was still strange. Every ancient dragon relic was supposed to have a dragon species guarding it, yet his regression had no guardian. Theo looked up at Lodbrok. "Then my final question. Why was I chosen? If this was prepared specifically to oppose the Nameless Monarch, why choose someone like me, someone with no talent?" Lodbrok chuckled. "It seems I must answer that question with a question of my own. Why do you believe that you are the only special existence chosen by a relic?" In an instant, Theo felt as if he had been thrown into an ice pit. Did that mean he was not the only person chosen by a relic? No wonder those people all knew of the relic's existence and were trying to collect them. If they had also been chosen by relics, then perhaps they could see the system panels just like Theo. Some of them might even be regressors as well. Although Theo had now taken one step closer to the truth of the world, everything had become even more complicated. Before he could think any further, Lodbrok reminded him, "Since all the missions have been completed, it is time for you to receive your reward." Hearing this, Theo finally snapped back to his senses. He had originally come here to obtain Amon's grimoire, but now he had changed his mind. If he was going to take something, then he should take something bigger, something that ordinary treasures could never compare to. Lodbrok said, "As you can see, this nest is filled with rare treasures gathered from all across the world. No matter which one you choose, it will be a treasure beyond imagination. As long as it belongs to this nest, you may choose any one item. Now, tell me, what do you want?" Listening to Lodbrok's words, Theo's eyes revealed a greed he could not hide. "In that case, I want you, Lodbrok." Lodbrok thought he was joking. "I never expected my damn popularity to remain this strong even after thousands of years. Come on, tell me what you actually want." But Theo told Lodbrok that he had already said exactly what he wanted. Realizing that he truly intended to choose her, Lodbrok instantly unleashed her draconic presence. "You brat. Do you think you can use one joke to trick me out of all the treasures here and all of my knowledge?" But Theo knew very well that this was a gamble, and not just any gamble. It was a life or death bet. Still, if he could become her companion, it would be proof of legitimacy, stronger than anything else. So Theo absolutely could not let this chance slip away. "Lord Guardian Dragon, you personally declared that I may choose any treasure within this nest, and nowhere did you say that Lodbrok herself was excluded. You swore that oath with sacred words. So please, come with me." For a fleeting moment, Lodbrok saw something in Theo that reminded her of Sigurd. Then suddenly, she changed her mind. "Very well, in that case, I will give you a chance." When Theo saw her human form, he couldn't help freezing on the spot. Lodbrok smiled. "It seems you've already been enchanted by me. Unfortunately, this body is already more than 2,000 years old." But before she could finish speaking, Theo asked a serious question. "Lord Guardian Dragon, what happened to your heart?" Hearing this, Lodbrok's expression instantly darkened. "In truth, I lost my dragon heart 50 years ago. What stands before you now is nothing more than a pitiful creature waiting for death. At most, I have 3 years left. Because of that, I cannot even leave this nest. In other words, I cannot give you any direct help. So I will ask you one more time. Even knowing that, do you still choose me?" Theo did not hesitate at all. "My answer will never change. I still choose you as my reward." Lodbrok laughed. "How foolish. But perhaps that stubbornness is exactly why you were chosen." Theo told her, "I will become stronger, and then I will collect more ancient dragon relics. I will find something for you, something capable of replacing the heart you lost. Since they are ancient dragon relics, perhaps one of them can serve as a new heart. Only then will I truly be worthy of the title of the Guardian Dragon's companion." By now, Lodbrok was growing more and more interested in him. "But as I said, I cannot leave this place. Until you recover that replacement, I will fall into sleep once again. So there is one more thing you must complete. To establish a true soul connection between us, you must read this book thoroughly and open your door of the mind here and now." Theo never expected that, through this strange twist of fate, he would actually obtain Amon's grimoire. But the second round of the Blooming Festival was still ongoing, and there was less than half a month left before the exam ended. Could he finish the exam first and come back later to open the door of the mind? Lodbrok was speechless. "Technically, that is not impossible, but I will not allow it. If you pass this trial too easily, where would the fun be? So open your door of the mind before the second round of the Blooming Festival ends. Until then, you are not leaving." Meanwhile, with only 12 hours left before the end of the exam, Axion had already secured first place with 860 points. But even with such an incredible score, he was not happy at all. He had gone through all the trouble of replacing several examiners with his uncle's people specifically to eliminate Theo during the second round, and yet Theo had not shown himself from beginning to end. Felix said, "Looking at it this way, could the Elder Council's information be right? Did those 3 assassins really kill him? For him to still not appear at this point makes no sense at all." Axion looked at him with open contempt. "For the so-called future star of the Plum Blossom Palace, your insight is absolute trash. Now I understand why the Palace Master keeps clinging to that Theo. Forget it. I didn't expect much from him anyway. If he doesn't plan to show himself, then I'll force him out my way. All members of the Wyvern Gathering and the Plum Blossom Palace, listen up. Hunting time starts now. Go kill every last piece of trash from the 4th training ground, one by one, until that bastard shows up. But none of them noticed that Ray, hiding behind a tree, had heard every word of their plan. At that moment, 3 swordsmen had barely managed to defeat a low to mid-tier magical beast by working together. Sybil said excitedly, "See? I told you we could do it. Once the exam ends, I'm definitely going to brag about this to young Master Theo. But now that I think about it, there are only about 12 hours left in the second round. Where exactly is young Master Theo? I prepared so many supplies for him too." Eod said, "Young Master must have a much greater plan. He is definitely doing something more important than earning points in the Blooming Festival." Sybil said regretfully, "Still, I really wanted to see young Master take first place." But before he could finish speaking, a sword pierced straight through his chest. The one who appeared was Orlin, a core member of the Wyvern Gathering. "We also want to see that damn young Master Theo. So why don't you go wait for him in hell?" At the same time, inside the hidden nest, Lodbrok never expected that Theo would successfully open the door of the mind in less than half a month, something that normally took ordinary people 3 years to comprehend. It seemed her new companion was far from simple. Lodbrok told Theo, "With this, once your realm rises to a certain level, you will be able to hear my voice. At that time, you will also be able to borrow this ancestral power. But to reach that stage, my revival is the prerequisite. Remember, I have at most 3 years left. Now, I declare that the ancient covenant is sealed. I look forward to our next meeting, my new companion after 1,000 years." However, when Theo left the hidden realm and returned to the trial grounds, only 12 hours remained before the Blooming Festival ended. If he hunted magical beasts the normal way, it would be impossible to climb to first place in time. In that case, he had no choice but to steal other people's bells, Theo kept thinking. In his previous life, Axion had taken first place, and this time was probably no different. In other words, as long as he dealt with Axion, first place would be his. Just then, a burst of unsteady footsteps came from behind him. Theo turned around and saw that the person approaching was Ray, badly wounded. Theo was stunned. How could any magical beast wound you this badly? What happened? Ray staggered closer. "We can talk about that later. Head west first." Theo caught Ray in his arms just as she was about to collapse, and the instant he touched her sword, young dragon resonance activated, successfully reading Ray's memories. In those memories, Axion had captured everyone from the 4th training ground in order to lure Theo out, and because Ray tried to stop Axion, he had beaten her until she was gravely wounded. That was why she was covered in injuries now. Theo never expected that even after he had lived a second life, Axion still refused to let him go. Unfortunately for Axion, Theo was no longer the man who could only sit there and take the beating. Meanwhile, one of Axion's men reported to him, "Theo has finally appeared. At this rate, he should arrive here very soon." Hearing this, Axion couldn't help revealing a twisted smile. "Theo Ragnar, you finally couldn't hold yourself back." Then a stern voice reached his ears. "Please do not forget, Lord Axion. All you need to do is use the hostages to force out information about the relic. As for Theo, we will dispose of him properly. While we handle him, please use the summoning orb to divert the attention of the nearby examiners." Axion remembered his uncle's instructions and could only agree unwillingly. "Don't worry, I'll do what I'm supposed to do." At the same time, Ray warned Theo, "You absolutely cannot go after Axion. Even the examiners are working with him now. This is no longer a competition. It's a death trap set specifically for you." But Theo did not care. "Didn't you stand up anyway? I've had enough of being completely at their mercy. I will never repeat that same fate again. So, tell me where Axion is right now." Elsewhere, when Wellington saw the supplies Sybil had stockpiled, he immediately realized something was wrong. He turned to look at Hulks and his sister. "Sorry, but it looks like I'll need your help." Meanwhile, Theo followed Ray's directions and rushed toward his target. Along the way, he cleared out the magical beasts blocking him while thinking through the current situation. Sybil and the other hostages should still be safe for now. Since Ed was the one pulling Axion's strings, then he must have prepared everything carefully and would not want any unnecessary complications. The fact that the secret bureau examiners were waiting alongside Axion proved exactly that. But the examiners deployed to kill Theo would also restrain Axion's sudden actions. After all, Axion himself was an uncontrollable variable, and precisely because of that variable, Theo had a chance to turn the situation around. Ray watched the direction Theo had disappeared in and thought to herself, You've been like this since you were little. Since things have already come this far, then let me lend you a hand. At that moment, Sybil kept struggling among the crowd. Seeing this, Axion drew his sword, ready to cut him down on the spot. But an examiner stopped him. Lord Axion, please remember the Secret Bureau Director's orders. Do not create unnecessary complications. Axion could only grit his teeth in frustration. Then, with a thud, he sat directly on Sybil's body. Suddenly, Axion realized that his uncle had deployed 4 upper-rank swordsmen from the Secret Bureau just to kill Theo. So in the end, his uncle still believed he could not beat that guy. Then Theo slowly came into view. His eyes swept across the area, passing over every person around him. When he saw his former companions tortured into such a state, his grip tightened hard around the hilt of his sword. Axion had no intention of wasting words either. You should understand the situation by now, so let's get straight to the point. If you want to save your friends. But before he could finish, Theo suddenly asked, "Are you scared?" Axion froze slightly. "What did you say?" Theo taunted coldly. "I asked if you're scared of losing to me. If not, why put on this whole show? Look how many people you gathered. Look how many eyes are locked on me. And this pathetic little hostage act? All of this is because you're afraid of losing to me, isn't it? What a disgrace to the title of strongest among the Northern Four. If I'm wrong, then face me properly. A duel. The Ragnar way. Let our swords decide the winner. That is, if there's still even a shred of dignity left in your bones. If I lose, my life and everything you want will be yours. If you lose, you already know what I want." Axion laughed. "Ragnar's useless son wants to challenge me to a sword duel? You really are arrogant beyond belief. Do you honestly think I'm afraid of you?" Then an examiner hidden nearby warned him, "Lord Axion, this is nothing but cheap provocation. There is no need to accept." But Axion ignored them. "All of you, shut up. Do you people not even trust me? I accept your challenge. This is a sword duel concerning Ragnar's honor. Until the duel is over, no one is allowed to interfere. Now, let me show you what true Ragnar power looks like." With that, Axion swung his sword with full force and unleashed Sky Dragon's roar. Seeing this, Theo immediately leapt into the air and struck with Dragon's 3 claws. That single strike shattered Axion's sword technique head-on. Theo looked at Axion and asked coldly, "Do you really think you're qualified to teach anyone?" Axion gritted his teeth. "Not bad." Then, he clashed with Theo again. After several exchanges, the two were evenly matched, with neither side able to gain the upper hand. Axion couldn't help thinking, strong. His growth really is ridiculous, but still not fast enough. I can predict every move you make. The next second, he hurled the sword in his hand straight toward Theo. Theo was stunned. A thrown sword? He suddenly remembered his previous life. The masked man who ended his life had used the exact same technique. Theo caught the sword, flying toward him, and muttered, "So, it was you." He never imagined that the masked man who had burned down the entire Rose Palace in his previous life, and brutally murdered him, was none other than Axion, standing right in front of him. And among the Troy faction, the only person who used sword throwing as a main tactic was Axion himself. After all, who else but someone this arrogant would risk losing his weapon again and again just to use such a move? Until now, it had only been Theo's suspicion. But after seeing it with his own eyes, he could finally be certain. At that moment, rage surged through him. He crushed the sword in his hand with one grip. "In the past or now, why do you people have to hunt me and my companions to the bitter end before you're satisfied? But I'm no longer the easy prey I was in my previous life. This time, neither I nor my companions will die." Axion looked at the sword Theo threw toward him, thinking Theo was trying to copy his sword-throwing technique. But after dodging it, he realized Theo had already gone all out. Had this guy actually been hiding his strength during the first round of the Blooming Festival? In the next instant, Theo was already in front of Axion, his sword charged and ready. Axion reacted quickly and raised his sword to block. Their blades collided, sending sparks flying. But Axion still failed to block it completely, and Theo's blade cut across his cheek. Theo looked at Axion and mocked him coldly. "Is that all you've got? When exactly are you going to show me this so-called Ragnar power?" As soon as he finished speaking, Theo knocked the sword straight out of Axion's hand. "Axion, do you know what it feels like to have your stomach pierced?" At that moment, Theo's sword was already aimed at Axion's abdomen. Meanwhile, Wellington examined the bloodstains on the ground and concluded, this wasn't caused by a magical beast attack. someone was taken away, and the only person bold enough to do this is Axion. It seems he took the others hostage to lure out young Master Theo. He must be planning to eliminate him during the second round of the Blooming Festival. Hulks couldn't help cursing when he heard that. That Axion bastard really is despicable. How can he pull something this dirty behind everyone's back? But Erica believed that something like this happening during the Blooming Festival was completely normal. Wellington disagreed. Even if Ragnar worshipped strength above all, this kind of act can never be forgiven. This is exactly why I dislike Ragnar. I'm going to save our companions. If it were young Master Theo, he would do the same. If you're willing to help, you'll be a great support. Hulkus immediately agreed. No problem. Sis, you're coming too, right? However, Erica showed no interest at all. The only reason I came with you in the first place was because I thought I might get to see Theo. But in the end, I haven't even caught a glimpse of him. Besides, I hate weak men the most. I have no interest in saving them. Wellington told her, I know why you want to meet young Master Theo, and I can promise you this. If you assist me now, it will go a long way toward achieving your goal. With an agreement reached, the three rushed toward the target area at full speed. Unfortunately, they had not gone far before members of the Wyvern Gathering blocked their path. Long time no see, Wellington. Back then, you abandoned us and started hanging around that piece of trash. And now you're running with a dumb bear from the Rank family too? Wellington warned him, I do not wish to cross swords with an old friend, so you should step aside. But Orland stood there without moving an inch. Since that was the case, Wellington wasted no more words. Then we'll just have to cut our way through. Meanwhile, just as Theo and Axion were locked in a fierce stalemate, Liam, the examiner hiding in the shadows, suddenly entered the fight. My apologies, young Master Axion. You have already fought with more than enough bravery. Once the Blooming Festival ends, I will accept every punishment myself. The moment he finished speaking, Liam moved, forcefully knocking Theo's sword aside. He turned and ordered the men behind him to protect Axion, then stepped back into battle against Theo. One of the subordinates also rushed to Axion's side. Please leave the rest to us. Liam's sword came fast, thrusting straight for Theo's vitals, and Theo immediately tilted his head to evade. In the next instant, Theo regained his footing and reset his stance. Then he swung back with full force, slashing hard toward Liam. Liam had to admit it. Whether compared to young Master Axion or to all the newly appointed upper-rank swordsmen brought here today, Theo would not fall behind any of them. Unfortunately for the boy, Liam was far beyond that level. It truly is a shame to kill a rare talent like you. But for the glory of the Troy faction, I'll have to ask you to die here. But Liam never imagined that at this critical moment, he would be stabbed in the back by his own ally. Young Master, why would you do this? By now, Axion's mind had already been consumed by obsession. You stepped in because you thought I was going to lose, didn't you? That is an insult to me, an insult to an heir. Theo Ragnar, you are strong now. I acknowledge that. But you have to be weaker than me. That is the only way this makes sense. I am the one destined to become the strongest and claim Ragnar's throne. How could I possibly lose to someone like you in a place like this? Anything that stands in my way deserves to die. Seeing Commander Liam wounded, the other upper-rank swordsmen immediately rushed over to help him up. Damn it, we knew he was reckless, but I never thought he would go this far. But before the man could finish, Liam snapped at him. What are you standing around for? Go support Lord Axion. If he dies here, every last one of us will be buried with him. At that moment, Nakshan slowly realized that Theo, the man he once dismissed as trash, was now starting to overpower him. Damn it. A piece of garbage like you should be someone I can tear apart with ease. I am Axion, the man who will become the ruler of the North and inherit Ragnar's throne. How could I fall in a place like this? Theo tightened his grip on his sword. Because of your damned ambition, the people around me died one after another. If you still refuse to let it go, then with the power I've been given, I'll crush that ambition with my own two hands. In the next instant, both of them unleashed their strongest strikes at the same time. No one present could believe what they were seeing. Axion, once the arrogant, strongest member of the Northern Four, had actually died in the second round of the Blooming Festival. When Liam came back to his senses, he immediately roared. Kill him, kill that bastard. Theo knew very well that even at full strength, facing 4 upper-rank swordsmen at once would be impossible. And that last attack had nearly drained what little mana he had left. Now, all he could do was hold on until reinforcements arrived. But Wellington did not disappoint him. Young Master Theo, coming to help a companion in danger is only natural. Leave the rest to us. An examiner interfering in the test is already an absolute taboo. and you went even further by attacking a participant directly. Surely you understand what kind of crime that is. At that moment, Liam knew the situation had spiraled completely out of control. Not only had they failed to eliminate Theo, even Lord Axion had lost his life. But there was no turning back now. In that case, the best option was to silence everyone here. With that thought, Liam took out the device he had prepared in advance. He planned to lure all the nearby magical beasts over and use a staged accident to cover up every crime he had committed. Unfortunately for him, before he could activate it, 4 other examiners arrived and restrained him from behind. Selford warned the remaining 3 upper-rank swordsmen coldly. If you still want to live, then come with me quietly. If you want to end up like Liam, then by all means, keep fighting. In an instant, the situation completely reversed. Once Theo confirmed that everything had been settled, he finally dropped the guard he had maintained through sheer willpower. Ray immediately pulled him into her arms. Looking at the exhausted man she loved, she couldn't help scolding him softly. Theo, you were far too reckless. Why did you have to go this far? But the concern of the people around him became the best answer. Young master, you went this far for us. Even if we died now, we would have no regrets. Hearing that, Theo forced out a faint smile. Do you see it now? This is the strength I've been chasing. After the second round of the Blooming Festival ended, Farrell, the Ascending Dragon, acting as the chief examiner, publicly announced the results. With 1,121 points, Theo once again claimed first place. The next ranks were Wellington, Erica, and Ray. In total, 45 participants passed this round. As all of you know, everyone who passes the second round of the Blooming Festival may advance from apprentice swordsman to junior swordsman. This means you have officially earned your qualifications as Ragnar Swordsman. However, the Blooming Festival is not over yet. Those who have obtained the right to participate in the third round, please raise your hands. While the crowd was still confused, Wellington and several others stepped forward, one after another. As it turned out, to qualify for the third round, participants had to collect magical bells scattered throughout the area, each containing a random incantation. Once they successfully grasped the power within, they would earn the right to enter the third round of the Blooming Festival. In his previous life, Theo had never truly understood the real meaning behind those incantations. But now, with the help of young dragon resonance, he instantly grasped every hidden secret within them. Seeing this, Farrell was delighted. You must understand, even one person qualifying would already be wonderful news, but this year, there are 4. Truly astonishing. Now then, each of you will demonstrate the power you have obtained before me, your examiner. Theo stepped forward. What I obtained is the thunder breathing method. It is divided into 5 stages: infusion, manifestation, control, expansion, and aura sword. In past generations, simply reaching the manifestation stage was already considered impressive. But when Farrell saw that Theo had already reached the control stage, even he couldn't hide his shock. However, the real surprise was yet to come. Theo gathered the power of thunder once again and forced it all the way into the expansion stage. In the next second, under everyone's stunned gaze, he drew his sword and struck directly at Farrell. The attack was undeniably powerful, but against an elder counted among the 9 dragons, it still fell a bit short. Farrell simply activated his water-type breathing method with one hand and effortlessly neutralized Theo's strike. Good. You are indeed qualified to challenge me as your examiner. In recognition of that performance, I award you an additional 1,000 points. After that, Wellington received 500 bonus points, while Erica and Ray, who had only reached the manifestation stage, each received 300. By the standards of past festivals, anyone who passed 1,000 points would already be considered a guaranteed first-place contender. But this year, there were actually 4 candidates at that level. For Ragnar, this was truly a blessing. Now, aside from those qualified to participate in the third round of the Blooming Festival, everyone else may leave. Once the remaining participants had left, the third round of the Blooming Festival officially began. In an instant, a crushing pressure fell onto the shoulders of all 4 candidates. Theo's heart shook, because from that pressure, he sensed Lodbrok's aura. As it turned out, the third round of the Blooming Festival was a meeting with the family head. No one knew what would happen during this meeting. Everything depended entirely on the trial the family head had prepared. On top of that, this meeting would decide whether they could enter the family head's direct core. The previous 5 candidates had all come from that direct core. In other words, joining it meant stepping onto the path of a serious contender. Theo frowned slightly. In that case, the one waiting for them above should have been the family head. So why was he sensing Lodbrok's aura? Could the person who took Lodbrok's heart actually be the family head? While the four of them were being pinned down by the draconic presence, barely able to move, Examiner Pharrell told them, only those who pass through this draconic presence will earn the chance to meet the family head. Theo immediately warned his companions, do not try to force your way through with brute strength. The family head is likely testing whether we can control and regulate mana properly. Anyone who cannot even do that has no right to stand before him. So we need to interfere with it using an inverse wavelength. Erica couldn't help complaining. Are you two speaking another language? Because I don't understand a single word. Wellington explained to her, mana is a type of wave with vibrational properties. That means the family head's pressure is also formed through waves. To break through it, we need to calculate the opposite mana wavelength and use it to cancel out this pressure. While the two of them were still talking, Theo had already broken free from the pressure first. None of them expected him to be that fast. Theo simply chuckled. If I'm aiming to become the next family head, then this much is nothing. I'll go ahead. Catch up as quickly as you can. Farrell reminded the remaining three, you should hurry as well. The scoring is based on the order of arrival. Watching Theo's back disappear, the old pharaoh couldn't help muttering to himself, how strange. At my age, I'm actually starting to feel like taking on a disciple again. Meanwhile, inside the Camellia Palace, the demon blacksmith Gilson was shouting through the corridor, where is my precious daughter? Seeing her like this, Cecilia quickly reminded her, Mother, this is still a palace. Please mind your manners. But Gilson rushed over in excitement. Manners? Who cares about manners? Your mother is about to become filthy rich. Ever since Theo became famous, orders had been flooding into Basque workshop non-stop. The era of only forging weapons is over. I'm going to make accessories too, every kind I can, and sell them all. I'm going to multiply our revenue by 10. As Cecilia listened to her mother's excited rambling, a faint worry slowly appeared in her eyes. I always knew Theo would be alright, but now that he's truly standing out, I'm starting to worry. Will all the pressure and hostility from every side wear him down? And right now, this is all I can do for him. If only I could give him some more practical help. Suddenly, an idea flashed for Cecilia's mind, and she looked at Gilson. Mother, have you ever made prosthetic limbs? At the same time, when Kyle heard Theo say he would become the next family head, he burst into laughter. That unstoppable momentum of his really does please me, he said to the black dragon on his shoulder. I understand what you were worried about, but even parents have no right to stand in the way of a child's dream. Besides, didn't we once have days like that too? This place is the best proof of it. In truth, all I seek is a golden age for Ragnar. If anyone dares interfere with that, then like the owners of these swords, they need only be removed. But for now, nothing is settled yet. We still have plenty of time to watch, even if that son of mine is a regressor. Not long after, Theo successfully reached the ridge. Kyle asked him, do you know what these are? These are the swords of warriors I personally defeated over the years. That is what the position of family head means. To sit here, one must stand alone and face endless threats and challenges. Only those who can remain standing through their own strength deserve this seat. So, do you believe you are qualified? Do not answer too quickly. Do you know how many corpses must pile beneath your feet to claim this place? Theo did not hesitate for even a moment. My resolve has never changed. He knew perfectly well that the family head would not care about pretty arguments or righteous excuses, so instead, Theo simply drew his sword. Then please allow me to answer with my blade. From the moment Theo chose to answer with his sword, Kyle no longer saw him as a son, but as a challenger. Very well. Then let me see how much weight her teachings truly carry. In that instant, Theo realized it. The one who had taken Lodbrok's heart really was his father. But while his mind wavered, Kyle's sword had already fallen, slicing Theo's body cleanly in half. The black dragon seemed to hurriedly say something to the family head. Kyle merely chuckled. What is this? Now that the moment has come, you suddenly cannot bear to see this prodigy die? You are right. The realm of the heart sword can only be broken through by those with pure will and true resolve. For a boy who has only just completed the blooming festival, this is indeed cruel. But if this is the full extent of his resolve, then he may as well become a lost soul and sleep here forever. Ragnar has no need for a pathetic regressor bringing shame upon the family. Deep within Theo's consciousness, countless memories flashed before his eyes. Being pierced by his father's sword may have been the inevitable ending all along, so he had no real regrets. After all, in this life, he had given everything he had. He took the Camellia Palace, and personally settled his debts with Lenton and Axion. In the end, perhaps all of this had only been a fleeting dream born of luck. Compared to his previous life, Reaching this point could already be called happiness. Maybe now, it was time for him to bow out, to find eternal peace in this world. But just as Theo's consciousness was about to fade away completely, Lodbrok suddenly appeared. That's enough. Wake up already. If you were really this pathetic, I would have swallowed you long ago. Hearing that, Theo's eyes snapped open. That's right. This life could not end here. He had already sworn it. Even if he was broken, he would never bow his head. In the next instant, Theo swung his sword, backhanded. That strike did more than cut through the heart realm laid down by the family head. It also earned Kyle's recognition. My son, you have passed. 1 week later, inside the Central Hall building, Hulks grew nervous when he saw both the family head and the former family head present. The sheer weight of the scene was getting to him. Erica saw his reaction and rolled her eyes. How embarrassing. Relax. You didn't even obtain an attribute breathing method. They're not going to pay attention to you. Hulks felt as if he had suffered internal injuries from that single sentence. Still, he couldn't help asking, by the way, during the 3rd round, what did you receive from the family head? But Erica refused to say a single word. Hulks immediately snapped. What a cheapskate. If it were our Theo, he'd definitely tell me without hiding anything. Erica looked confused. What do you mean, our Theo? What is that supposed to mean? Hulks answered as if it were obvious. Sooner or later, I'll have to bet my life on someone in Ragnar. So, if I'm going to choose, why wouldn't I choose someone stronger and cooler than everyone else? And the person I've chosen is young Master Theo. I don't know the exact reason, but the family had publicly declared that Theo won't be joining his direct corps. If that's the case, then I'll be able to follow him somewhere else. Then Barna announced, the appointment ceremony will now begin. First, the overall champion, Theo. Please step forward. From the dirt, all the way to the summit, Theo's comeback had shaken the hearts of countless apprentice swordsmen. Now, the number of people who admired and followed him was growing day by day. When everyone finally put away their once hostile, judgmental stares and looked at him with admiration instead, the boy once known as Ragnar's useless son had completely vanished. At that moment, a system notification appeared. Congratulations, you have completed the story mission. Reward obtained, Aether Core. Theo thought to himself that with a mission this long, the reward had to be something good. But just then, Ed suddenly rose from his seat. Barna reminded him, I do not know what matter you have, but please take your seat first and do not interrupt the appointment ceremony. But Ed said directly, the Central Secret Bureau is willing to offer Theo Ragnar the position of Deputy Director. Theo immediately activated Eye of Insight. And sure enough, he discovered that Ed was approaching him for the ancient dragon relic. Theo merely chuckled to himself, knowing that these Troy people would all die by his hand, sooner or later. Hearing that, Julius couldn't help roaring. Do you really take everyone here for fools? Who doesn't know you're just using this chance to vent your anger over your nephew's death? Ed only smiled. You're wrong. As the director of the Central Secret Bureau, I simply wish to recruit an outstanding talent. At that moment, Barna cut off their argument. I understand that everyone wishes to recruit talent, but the formal process has not yet begun. Please remain calm. Now then, Theo Ragnar, have you already made your decision, or do you still need time to consider? Theo replied, in truth, I have not made up my mind yet. That is exactly why I would like to hear everyone's proposals. Osha immediately raised her hand. I propose taking Theo as my disciple, and granting him the position of young palace master of the Plum Blossom Palace. The entire hall erupted at once. After all, the Plum Blossom Princess had no children. Didn't that mean she intended to take Theo in as her adopted son? Seeing this, Wellington couldn't help thinking, young Master Theo really is incredible. To think 2 of the 9 dragons personally extended invitations to him at the same time. But what shocked him even more was still to come. Just then, Rob the Black Dragon descended from above. He looked at Theo and said, in truth, I have been watching you throughout the entire Blooming Festival. Kyle was right. There really are many interesting things about you. Come to Black Snow. I can promise you the position of Snowless. Snowless was the highest rank within Black Snow, the secret intelligence organization, a position that allowed one to reveal their identity openly while still receiving honor. It was said that only 8 people had ever held that title, so its weight spoke for itself. Farrell gave a light cough and joined in as well. Theo, do not forget that the gates of the Ascending Dragon Hall are always open to you too. Now, 4 of the 9 dragons had already extended offers to Theo. Yet Julius, the first to take an interest in him, had remained silent the entire time. After a while, he finally spoke slowly. Although we are also eager for talent, the white-armored Dragon Knights will not offer Theo any special treatment. What I can give you is my full support and the honor of a Dragon Knight. By this point, Theo had already made his decision. But just as he was about to state his answer, Hilda spoke to him in a way only he could hear. "You are a regressor, aren't you?" A storm of shock surged through Theo's mind. But he forced himself to stay calm and answered, "I don't understand what you mean." Hilda smiled playfully. "Whatever you experienced in your previous round, your acting is quite impressive. There is no need to hide it. Although all the rounds granted to me have already been used up, I am also a regressor." Theo kept his expression calm, but his mind immediately seized on one word: rounds. That wording meant regression did not happen only once. If that was true, then how many regressors were hidden in this world? With that question in mind, Theo asked Hilda, "When you say rounds, do you mean someone can regress multiple times?" Hilda looked a little surprised. "You truly know nothing. It seems Kyle told you nothing at all." Then again, Kyle despises regressors. The fact that he left you alive is already rather unexpected. Only then did Theo finally understand why his father had put him through such a brutal trial earlier. Hilda continued, "It seems you have many questions, but there is no time to discuss them now. If you want to know the truth about this world and the family, come find me after this ends." At that moment, Theo still had not fully recovered from that conversation. The family head had taken Lodbrok's heart. Could it be because Lodbrok was the ancient dragon who welcomed regressors? By common sense, no human should be capable of defeating an ancient dragon. But if that human was Kyle, the family head known as a demigod, then perhaps it really was possible. It seemed that if Theo wanted to uncover the secrets of regression and the Ragnar family, he would have to visit Hilda.